The Labor Department has released the November jobs report just moments ago. The U.S. economy added 245,000 jobs last month. The unemployment rate ticked down to 6.7%. To put these numbers into some context, let's turn to former Treasury official and Morning Joe economic analyst Steve Rattner and columnist at Business Insider Lynette Lopez. Good morning to you both. Steve, let me start with you. I know the job expectation was something like 440,000 jobs. So this comes in under that number. What do you make of these figures here?
That's right, Willie. These numbers are actually quite a disappointment relative to both what we need to do in terms of adding jobs back to get this economy back to where it was before, as well as what we expected. As you said, this number is roughly half of what we expected to see in this month's report. Not totally surprising because we have been seeing other kinds of anecdotal or real-time bits of data that suggested things were worse than what we thought they were going to be. But nonetheless, adding jobs at this rate means that we're in a very, very deep hole. We still have 10 million jobs left to recover, and at the rate if we continue at this rate, we're talking about something like 3.5 years before we get back even to the number of jobs we had before all this started. So that is actually quite bad news. The drop in the unemployment rate, the slight drop in the unemployment rate may also sound like good news, but it's also not good news because it really reflects the fact that close to 500,000 people dropped out of the labor force last month, and so that in effect statistically creates a drop in the unemployment rate. But in fact, there is not really a drop in the unemployment rate. So all of this puts a lot more pressure back on Washington, back on the stimulus, back on getting something done. And it's very clear now that the failure of the Congress and the White House to act over these last months is proving very, very costly for the American economy.
So, Steve, I'm just looking at some of the breaking news alerts. The Washington Post says that these numbers are a sign that the recovery is faltering as coronavirus cases surge. That's from the Washington Post. The Wall Street Journal talks about these numbers signal a sharp slowdown in the labor market recovery. Let's put politics aside. What does this economy need, specifically in terms of a COVID relief package that Republicans and the Republicans in the Senate and Democrats in the House can come together? What do we need the most to get this economy kick-started?
We need a bridge to when the vaccine becomes widely distributed and takes effect. And there are several pieces of relief that would be appropriate to put in right now. One would be extending the PPP program that helps small business get a bridge over this. A second would be extending unemployment benefits, which expired, the special unemployment benefits, which expired over the summer. A third would be aid to state and local governments, which are terribly strapped and don't have the money to conduct their own fiscal relief programs. And those kinds of elements are the package. The Democrats are very focused on state and local government, and that is problematic for Republicans. The Republicans are very focused on protecting employers against liability from workers coming back who get sick, and that's a sticking point for Democrats. And that's become the push and the pull in Washington at the moment. But those are the key elements of a package: relief for workers, relief for small business, relief for state and local governments.
Lynette, if you look
Steve,
at these...
Can I ask you really quickly? I'm sorry, Willie. Really quickly, Steve. I'm just curious. How does helping state and local government build a bridge from where we are to where we're going to be once the vaccines come online and people can get back out into the workplace?
For a couple of reasons, Joe. First, because state and local governments have been very badly hit as well during this pandemic in terms of loss of revenues from taxes, from transit revenues, from things like that. And so they are in a fiscally tough position.
We're talking about, if you can excuse me, and I know we have a delay, but we're talking about, and I'm just curious, if we're talking about spending money to get us from where we are now to where we're going to be, let's say at the end of the first quarter, the beginning of the second quarter, when the vaccines really kicked in and America's getting back to work, shouldn't we worry about state and local governments after that? Don't we need to, right now, just worry about getting money into the pockets of people who are out of work so they can spend that money and get the economy going again?
No question, Joe. I agree completely. Getting money into the pockets of people out of work, getting pockets into small businesses so they can continue to operate is absolutely a top priority. But state and local governments are really important, too, because they spend a lot of money and put money into workers' pockets through their own state unemployment programs. And they do not have the ability to run deficits the way the federal government does. By law, they have to operate under balanced budgets. And so without aid to them in a very timely way, we would be talking about massive cutbacks in what state and local governments spend to help their citizens. And that would have a significantly negative economic effect as well.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.